Hello, Mary here. I hope you're all well today and life is treating you some way good. I just wanted to do a small talk about mental health and addiction, which I'm very passionate about. I want to firstly speak about mental health because I notice on Facebook that there are so many headlines of mental health. There are so many lovely little quotes that are being put up about mental health. And in our country, in Ireland, and in our town in Wexford, like mental health is just so bad. I mean, there are some facilities that cater for mental health. I'm going to talk about my own town here, but it's just not enough. It really is just not enough. I mean, you have a person going to a doctor, a man or woman, who is suffering with their mental health, whether they're anxious, depressed, suicidal. They will go to the doctor. The doctor will speak to them for probably five minutes if they're lucky when you go to a doctor now. They some of them don't seem to have any time, to sit down and speak to you. Now these doctors are not trained psychiatrists, so they most probably will do you out a prescription for antidepressants, and they will say they will make an appointment for you to go to one or two places in town here that cater for mental health people. So you could be waiting weeks for that, which is no good. That's no good to a person who is suffering. If someone is suffering today, I mean, there's no point in telling them, well, you'll get an appointment in 2 months. You get an appointment in 6 weeks. That's no good to a person. If a person is struggling like that, I mean, they can't wait. I mean, they some of them can't even make a phone call to say to someone, look, I'm struggling here. I'm suffering really bad and I need to speak to someone. You need to speak to them straight away, not weeks down the line. There's no point in being prescribed a lot of antidepressants, because if a person is struggling and if they're suicidal, they will just take all the tablets. Maybe they think that it will make them feel better. Maybe they want to not to be here. But they need to be able to speak to a person, within that day that they are seen. Now, I once asked a person, what does she think we should do about mental health? What would make it better for people? And she suggested if we had a drop-in centre in town. Now, I know there is one or two little places, but to be honest with you, I've tried to call to these places myself. I was calling with my book. I wanted to put my book in. The first one, I couldn't get in. I mean, I stood there, I knocked the door, I rang the bell, no one answered. The second one, a lady opened the door a couple of inches, and she was actually afraid. She was afraid to let me in. It was like, oh my God, who are you? Like she was nervous to be there. And I mean, this lady is working in a. She was supposed to like be there to help people who've mental health problems. Maybe something had happened before where she just felt nervous. Maybe she was in the building on her own. But look, I did eventually get in when I told her what I wanted. But that's no good. That's just not good enough for a person that is struggling. They need to be able to go down. They could be walking along the town, walking along the quay, maybe having a really bad day, and they might say, "Oh, I'm going to go up to the centre now. Might sit down, have a cup of tea, and have a chat. Tell them how I'm feeling." That's what we need. That they can go in, that they are listened to, by a trained person who can maybe guide them, will listen to them, will maybe give them some help into maybe what they want to do. That's just one sort of scenario. Like I remember sometime a person said to me, how many of our counsellors here in town, I'm talking about people now who run for you know, for to be a counsellor. How many of them have knocked a person's door in this town and asked them, not for their vote, how are you? How are you doing? How's life? Have you any problems, that I could help you with? You know, that's not what they say. They want you to vote. They will say, look, we're going to try to do this and that. And I'm not saying that they don't. A lot of them will try and help. Um, Maybe not them all. But the majority of them will try and help. But people. There's no one going to knock your door and say, look, Mary, are you okay? How are you feeling? Can I help you? That's not going to happen. You know. I mean, I wish it would. It'd be brilliant if people would go around knocking people's doors asking, are you okay? Is there anything I can help you with? I don't know. I don't know the answers. If you're dealing with someone with mental health, it can be very difficult because I had an experience myself where I was trying to be nice to someone and like their mind was fixated on something, and no matter what I said, I was wrong. I was wrong. Nothing I said to him. No, no, you're only lying to me. You don't mean what you say. And I did mean what I said. I genuinely wanted to help that person. But, I just sort of had to try and just let it go. And I said, well, maybe tomorrow they'll feel different. And I tried again the next day, but it was the same thing. And I have tried again and again and again. But sometimes, you can't reach these people. Maybe someone that is trained in an aspect like this will be able to help a person like that. But I just didn't really get anywhere with this person. So it's really difficult. It's really difficult to try and help these people. There's so many lost souls going around. And like, as I said, I mean, everyone hasn't got a phone. Everyone won't have credit in their phone to ring these places. You know, I'm talking about ordinary people who, if they have an addiction problem, they're not going to have credit on their phone. If they have addiction and mental health problems. So, like, what do you do then? How can they get help? How can they go and get help if they can't, if they can't sort of ring up or, if they feel they can't do that? Maybe they prefer just to go and knock a door, be let in and say, look, I'm having such a bad day. I mean, it's really, it can be quite depressing, I suppose, is the word I'm going to use, because, if you want to help someone, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating because sometimes you don't know what to do. You really just don't know what to do. Sometimes you may think you're doing right, but maybe you're doing wrong. I don't know. I just know that mental health is the pits in our country. It really is. And it was lovely to see a photo on Facebook, I think I saw it, where all these girls and boys were doing they had done degrees in psychiatric nursing, which is fabulous. I mean, that really is amazing. It was great to see that. And that's what we need. We need our young people to go and maybe, if they want to have a career in this, to, encourage them as much as you can to do this. Now today I've just called around to some schools with my book. As you know, I've my book, Healing the Long Road Back, sorry, which I am trying to get everywhere. And I'm still in the process of that. I have a lot more to do with the book. And this book has been given out free to schools and clubs and all. And it's been done like that because people in the town have sponsored me to get books printed, which is brilliant. And I thank them all so much. So that is my journey that I'm on. Um, you know, I sort of feel sometimes, if I'm putting up these posts, the feelings are going through your mind. Oh God, people will be sick listening to me about, oh, she's talking about the mental health and addiction again and her book and this and that. But look, this is what you have to do. This is what I have to do. I have to keep this, out there. And I mean, I've never been on Facebook before. I think I had a profile up before when I used to teach Keep Fit, but I was never really on Facebook. I had a profile there. But I'm on it now, and I'm also on Instagram, which is it's all very new to me. And But that's where you need to be. If you want to get something out there, if you want to, get word around about anything, you have to be on social media. You really do. So I really do want to try and get through to young, when I say young children, I'm speaking about children from maybe 12, 13 upwards. Now, at the minute, there is something in the pipeline where myself and another couple of members will hopefully be calling to schools to speak to pupils about drugs, say no to drugs, about mental health. So that's something I'm really, really looking forward to doing. And I think we need that, lads. We need that. Our town, I suppose our country. Well, I'm just going to talk about our town. Our town is just full of drugs. I mean, there are drugs everywhere. It just seems to be the big. It's like maybe going to a supermarket now, getting a large slice. You can walk downtown and get drugs. They're everywhere. And I see that myself, because whereas years ago I would have known really nothing about drugs, now I do sort of know a bit what I'm talking about, and strangely enough, in the last few weeks, when I've been out and about on the town, some people have come over to me, women especially, and they've said, Mary, my son or my grandson, they're having trouble with drugs. They owe drug money. What have you any advice you could give me, or what do I do? And like, it's and my heart goes out to them, lads. I mean, there's no easy answer. I mean, if your son or daughter owes a drug dealer money, for me, don't give your son or daughter the money to pay this person. If they're addicts, like, you do not give them money. So that's one thing I have learned. You do not give them money to pay the drug dealer. You have to try and sort that out a different way. Because, you putting money into an addict's hand is, what's going to happen, like. So you do not do that. And it is, for young people, I suppose it's so hard for them to say no. I mean, look, when I was growing up, there was a blow around weed, and I was asked, do you want to drag of this or that, and I went, well, I don't smoke, so I was never interested in that. I would have always been afraid to take a tablet off anyone. I've always, always been very against drugs. Always. It ruins people. It ruins families. It's like, I remember a counsellor once told me, it's like throwing a grenade into a family, because when that grenade blows up, everyone is affected. And that is the truth, lads. You might think to yourself, well, I'm not going to let that now, get to me or bother me or come into my life. But lads, it does come into your life. It wrecks your head. I mean, it really wrecks your head. And as much as you don't want to think about it, you will think about that every day. And especially if you're looking at someone you love on that path and you're wondering, my God, where is this path going to lead? Are they ever going to get better, or are they going to end up in the grave? And that's what I went through for years, always wondering what's going to happen. I just want to sort of give you an input there into addiction centres. There's a lot of addiction centres in Ireland. I've sent books onto them. But I want you to know, and this is something that I wouldn't have known myself. When I tried to get Martin in to an addiction centre, when he did want to go, you can't just go and bring them to an addiction centre. I thought you could. You just go and they let you in. No, 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 no. My God, it's you contact an addiction centre. They have always a waiting list. You have to be off drugs for so many weeks before they will even think about letting you in. You have to be tested every week or 2 weeks to make sure you're clear. Now, I know these are their rules, lads, but for me, I went, oh my God, sure. How is a person supposed to come off the drugs, like, if they're around people who are taking drugs? Where will they get the strength to do this? Why isn't there a place where they can go, maybe to be weaned off the drugs? before they go into the addiction centre. Why isn't there a place like that? I mean, because that's what you need. You can't expect. Yeah, I know people can do it. People that are very strong can do it. People that are very strong can do that. But what about the people that can't do it? What do they do? I mean, they really are in the shit, like, excuse the expression. And for a parent looking at this and wondering, oh my God, is my child going to be able to do this? I mean, it's soul destroying. It's really soul destroying. And let me tell you something, lads, right? An addict, there's nothing comes before drugs for an addict. Whether it's drugs, whether it's gambling, whatever addiction, drink, whatever addiction they have, there is nothing will come before it. If they're way on into their addiction, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, children don't come before their addiction. Now, we might say, oh God, I mean, and I know people that have lost their children because of addiction, and people will say, oh, aren't they scumbags? You have to think, lads, it's so easy to say that, but you have to remember that unless they get help for their addiction, they're never going to, okay, they might love their children, but their children don't come first. Their addiction comes first. And that's what you will learn, that their addiction is the number one. Hopefully they will get help. I mean, I'm not saying they don't love their children, lads, because they would love their children. I mean, most parents love their children. I'm just, okay, there might be parents there that don't have good relationships with children. Whatever happens in a family, it's very tough. But the addiction will always be number one, lads. And I've seen that, and I know people very close to me that this has happened to, and it's very, very sad. So don't be so quick to put these people down, lads. Don't be so quick to judge them. No one can judge us in this world, lads, right? Now I have great faith. I mean, and that's what keeps me going as well. I've great faith, and of course, get that from my dad, Danny. Most of you probably would know him. He was a great man, and I'm saying that because he was. If he wasn't a great man, I would also say that to you, that my dad was a prick or whatever, like. But he was a great man, lads. He had great faith, and I always took that from him. I really did. And it's great to have that. But I feel sorry for people that have no faith, lads. I feel sorry for people that think, well, this is it. I don't believe that this is it. I believe there is a better place for us to go. For people that are good and who try and, live good, and maybe and people that make mistakes, because I've made mistakes in my life. I've done things that I'm not proud of, but I've always tried to learn from the mistakes and not make them again. So that's me. We're all different, lads. We all have whatever beliefs we have. As long as you try and, be a good person, and help people. Help people, lads. I mean, Jesus, we have to help people, especially people in our country that are struggling with whatever it is. I mean, I, I try my best to help. I will help anyone if I can. I really would. I will really try and help him if I can do anything for him. But I also have to mind myself, you know. I have to mind my own mental health, lads, because, it's very, very easily to, you'll get into this circle where you're helping and helping, and I find then that it really does start to affect you yourself. I just give you an example. I remember when Martin had died, and I was going to a support group, trying to maybe listen to other, mostly it was mothers in the group, and I was listening to their stories about their children. Now all their children were alive, and I just found that when I left that group, I was so wrapped up in their stories of their children that I start feeling unwell. I was carrying all their stories with me, and I had to stop going. Now I did pop in an odd time just to say hello and that, but I couldn't carry their stories anymore in my own headspace, because my son was gone. You know, he was gone. And then I was carrying their stories and wondering, would their children make it? Would their children make it? And so it's you have to mind your own self, lads. Ourselves are number one. We have to mind ourselves. If we don't, we're no good to anyone else. We can't help anyone else. So basically, that's what I wanted to start talking to you about today. Now, look, lads, I'm no expert on anything. I'm only telling you my own feelings, my own what I think is, what we should be doing. You will all have different opinions. Some of you might, if you and if you have anything to say to me, lads, if you think, oh well, I wouldn't agree with Mary here, you text me that on Facebook. I don't mind. I really don't mind. You say whatever you want to say, and it will make me think, and maybe maybe your idea is better. I said, yeah, I never thought of that. Because when you're speaking here on the video, it's very hard to you try and you make a little list of what you want to talk about, and then I get carried away then what I'm talking about. But I just try and hit on things that I really want to talk about. So that's it for now. I was going to really talk a bit more about my own story with Martin, but I'm going to leave that for the next day. I will continue on from, when he got into his 20s and when he started using drugs. So thank you very much for listening to me if you are. And listen, lads, you don't have to follow me on Instagram or anything like that. I mean, just because you know me, you can listen to me if you don't have any comments. That's great. I'm doing this to help people. I'm doing this to get my book everywhere. So that's why I'm doing it. And thank you very much. And mind yourself and mind those you love. And take care. Till the next time. Bye. 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 Bye.